Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News with the prodigal son. Is that right? You're the prodigal son. You've come back to the father. Come back to the whānau. Is that right? Chewy is back, people.
Look, I might have to introduce myself. I've been gone so long. My name is Chewy, and tonight's show is brought to you. Where is it? By Vicks Vapor Drops. I'm going to need it.
By the letters V and...
Chloe Swarbrick.
Oh, sorry. I'm just setting
V
up some
and
things still,
Chloe
Whānau.
Swarbrick.
Chloe
Okay, cool.
Swarbrick, yes, she will be a focal point of conversation tonight. Good to have you back, man. We've got a guest. Oh man, all my videos are playing by themselves. We've got a guest coming on shortly, but you've been away for a week and a half. Surely we should be asking you what's been going on, what you've been doing, what's been happening, what's been crack-a-lacking.
I have had a fantastic time away. Me and my partner went away for almost 2 weeks to see a couple of gigs. I went to see Amigo the Devil play in Littleton, and that was amazing.
I saw you complaining about not enough merch, but you've got merch anyway. Is that right?
Oh no, I got merch for his show.
Right.
But then after that, we went up to Wellington to see another band called Pup. And by the time I got into the venue, everything was gone. So I was pretty upset about that. But amazing show. One thing I learned on my trip is that I am at times absolutely terrible with dates and making things work. Because what you don't want to do is have almost a full day of tattooing happening the day of going to a gig, rather than what you thought it was, which was 2 full days of tattooing after the gig.
Right.
So I was
the
fully
mosh pit?
expecting. From where I saw it, looked heaps of fun. I also saw people imbibing alcohol, which also seemed a lot of fun, as I observed the band stone cold sober with my arm up against a wall so nobody bumped into me. It was super good. I also learned that 2 days of tattooing is my limit in 1 week. That's enough. Thank you very much.
Right. Are we going to get a look, or are we?
Absolutely.
Do you have to get completely naked? So what's different?
So this is brand new.
Yeah.
People of Wellington will probably recognise this if you go down to the waterfront. You walk past it every day. But it is the statue of Coupe.
Right.
So that's about 75% finished. So
And is it going to remain the kind of black and white, or is it going to be colour added? What's the full plan for
Yes,
the
it is. It is black and white. Now this is a bit of a saga. When I got my first tattoo, which is on this arm, that one there, which is the Citizens Memorial from Christchurch. My artist, who'd done his research, just said, "Hey, that same sculptor that statue that you're getting done, he's got one up here in Wellington. You should get that, and then you've got the matching set." So this is me going back to him 10 years later and going, "That was a great idea. Let's do it."
Just so we know, there are some people who are freaking out a bit, don't know who the strange man in the show is. This is my French friend, Chewy, and French Canadian officially, and he thought he'd come visit us for the night. Chewy.
And the one other thing that we did that was awesome, completely without planning, both my wife and I realised that it's actually an anniversary of ours last week.
Oh, nice.
We met 10 years ago at a gig at the same place that we went to see Pup. So her part of that was that we had a capybara experience at the Wellington Zoo. We actually go
cool.
into the enclosure and interact with the capybaras and scratch them with a little back scratcher. That's
And
amazing.
Feed it to the anaconda. That's how they eat, isn't it?
No, you're not allowed to do that.
Oh, okay.
They're friends, not food.
Okay.
But it is a crime that you cannot domesticate a capybara in New Zealand because I want one.
But you're still true to the Wookiee, yes? Rather than moving to the capybara?
Still true to the Wookiee. And also big questions from the chat there. Has Chewy found his passport? Thank you. No, I have not. So tomorrow I'm getting passport first done.
I thought
ordering a new passport.
I thought they were going to say, why is Pat's camera slowly starting to point towards the ceiling?
Oh yeah.
So
Are you sinking? Are you sinking? Have you struck an iceberg? Yes.
No, I'm using old camera and it's not as solid.
So yes, tomorrow I will be getting some passport photos done and ordering a new passport, which has a fringe benefit. Obviously, if the government gets its way and removes the word Aotearoa from the front of it, I will still have one that says that, at least for another 10 years or so.
Now you watch how badly this is framed and it cuts my head off. Oh no, that's all right. Not too bad.
No, you're good.
All right. So, Whānau, a bit of a sort of loose feeling show tonight. I'm not entirely sure exactly how it's going to go and where it's going to go because there's such a lot of different information around Gaza at the moment. What Australia's doing, what the world's doing, what New Zealand is still kind of refusing to do, what happened to Chloe today. Auntie Helen Clark was at Gaza today. She was at the border of Gaza today looking in. Thanks to a group called the Elders, which does sound like some kind of secretive religious sect, but it's a group set up by Nelson Mandela in 2007 of sort of, I'm going to use this word, they don't use this word, but sort of enlightened world leaders fighting for social justice sort of thing. So there's lots of that stuff going on as well. I've got the full kind of four minutes of Chloe Swarbrick's speech, if we want to go there, so we can see the whole thing leading up to her getting booted out. And so we're going to kind of flow through. Also, of course, we are going to talk about Mr. Hipkins today, sort of giving, we talked about this last night, Chewy, about giving Willow Jean Prime, he didn't give her a serve, but he admitted that there were mistakes were made, and I think it's something for us to learn from and look at what he had to say about the whole thing. Some polling, of course, TVNZ's done their variant polling, which means every night this week there'll be something new in the polls, and I think tonight they were talking about it's so crazy when the public seem to know what's going on that we've been talking about for 18 months, that for a economy to feel secure and safe to its people, the government needs to be enabling work. They need to be investing in opportunities that provide people work, like building.
Green economy.
And the research today was pretty clear on that whole thing. So a bunch of stuff will go on. It might seem a bit of a loose ride, but you know, Chewy's back. That's how
I'm
we
back.
roll.
I'm back, baby. Loose is all we got.
Yes. Is there anything else? I don't think there is anything else. So I think what we'll do. Sorry, dude. Talk amongst yourselves. I've got to do a share screen and that kind of stuff. Nothing to see here. Be well. Chewy, tell us another story. Do a super chat or something if there are any.
There are no super chats, so I'm all on my own. Fun fact: when you scratch a capybara just right and it likes it, it puffs up and it makes a little guinea pig noise, which is adorable. Not
they kind of are a big.
They are a big guinea pig, but it's not like the noise scales with the animal. Like it's not a loud guinea pig noise. It's just like there's a guinea pig inside them making the noise, which just makes it even more adorable.
All right, so let's get to it, shall we? Joining us to start the show off, we have a campaigner, a writer, an activist. Jack McDonald joins us to have a look at some things Gaza. G'day, Jack. How you doing, man?
Kia ora korua. Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, doing very
Hello,
well.
Jack.
You recently have written, some musings and stuff about Gaza, and that's how I found you and thought we'd jump you on and have you. Do you want to give us kind of your your abridged version of what you've been thinking about and writing about to do with what's happening in Gaza at the moment, and then we can move on into tonight's topics. But then the whole whānau will know who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I've been seeing the same horrifying images that everyone's been seeing coming out of Gaza, and I'm lucky enough to have a fortnightly column for stuff, and so I just felt it was really important to, for all of us who do, have platforms, we should be talking about this genocide that is unfolding before our very eyes. It's horrific. It's unspeakable, the crimes against humanity that are being committed by Israel. And, I think it's very easy to get desensitized to the suffering that is occurring, but we shouldn't let ourselves do that. And, the tide is turning against Israel, as was one of the themes of my article, too slowly, but it is. And, we're now seeing even pro-Israeli voices in the US, for example, the head of one of the largest Zionist lobby groups, Democrat aligned, but still very much pro-Israel and Zionist, Jeremy Ben-Amir, said that he's now been convinced that what Israel is doing will be considered by the International Criminal Court in the future as genocide.
Yeah.
And so it shows, I think, that the pressure that has been applied by millions of people around the world is working, albeit much too slowly. And so we just need to ramp up the pressure even more. There's famine, across Gaza that's getting worse by the day. Unfortunately, this changing public opinion is too late for so many. Those tens of thousands who have been killed or displaced, but also those who are, slowly starving to death before our very eyes. So, I just think it's so important that we apply whatever pressure possible on Western governments in particular to, start to impose sanctions and real consequences on Israel for what's happening.
Yeah, and you've worked for the Greens and you've worked for Te Pāti Māori, and now you work with the CTU as well, as you say, with your column. It says in the Post, does it go up on stuff as well, or is it primarily just on the Post?
I think it goes to the press and the Waikato Times as well. Right. Yeah.
All right, well, let's do this. There's been a lot of information. I mean, it just feels like, it feels like you could almost run 2 of these shows a day. That just feels like how much information comes out every day around the Middle East. And it is interesting, Chewy, me and you, I'm not suggesting that we did something wrong, but it feels like the world kind of let go a little bit of what's happened and still happening in Ukraine. You know what I mean? It kind of become 2nd page news, 3rd page news, and we had a bit of a agreement with the public that we wouldn't let Gaza go. And I think that the evidence of the atrocities there is the media around the world has not been able to let Gaza go. So there's so much stuff going on at the moment. Let's have a look at One News tonight, the story that's come out today, because we have now talked about, places like Canada and I think it's France and the UK and other places recognizing Gaza. Oh, hi, you're Gaza. I know you from a time before. And something like 193 other UN countries. And New Zealand and Australia, I think it was yesterday, said that they're going to. And New Zealand's response to that was, we're definitely going to investigate whether we're going to. And that's where we're at the moment. And
we're going to talk to some people about talking about it.
We'll run that up the flagpole and see what happens. That's what they've been saying.
New Zealand's move to consider officially recognising a Palestinian state sparked fiery scenes in Parliament. This resulted in Greens co-leader Chloe Swarbrick getting kicked out of the House. The coalition government's facing mounting pressure and accusations that it's acting too slow after announcing it won't make a decision on Palestinian statehood until next month. Australia and others have already decided to back...
Chewy, that what you just said, kind of slightly in jest, tongue-in-cheek, is why? Why does this take a month? Like why does this take a month to do?
Well, Winston Peters said today that that we're extending talks to Turkey, Malaysia, a handful of other countries, and I just want to go, why?
Yeah.
Why like, by all means, talk to those countries. I think the thing that united all of those countries together is they're majority Muslim countries. But my whole issue is, what does their opinion have to do with New Zealand deciding to do something?
It does feel a
Like,
bit like...
it's part and parcel with maybe the whole thing, but the best time to recognise Palestine was fucking months, years ago, decades ago.
It does feel like, we talked about this last night in Chewy. This is I think you said this first, so for your credit, just before I push play again, is it does feel like that idea that you don't do human rights via referendum, and us kind of going, I wonder what they think. I wonder what they think is basically a form of governmental referendum amongst other governments. We'll keep going on the story.
The move. We begin with senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed as war rages on in Gaza, with food and aid still restricted by Israel. Other nations like Australia are moving to recognise the state of Palestine, hoping it will bring about peace. We're now weighing it up too.
It's not a race. It's actually about the complexity of the issue is a serious one. It deserves a serious...
I don't know. It might be a race, Luxon. It might be a race.
If you're the last to get on board the human rights acknowledgement, and if you're the last to get on board with saying, oh, yeah, this is a genocide, you know, it is, you know, you're wrong, actually. The slow and steady does not win this race. This race is finished, and you need to identify that it's finished.
Weighing up of our position.
Gazans can't eat empty statements. People are currently being mercilessly slaughtered and starved to death.
There are accusations our government is dragging its heels.
It would appear the dysfunctional relationship between David Seymour and Winston Peters is the thing blocking that at the moment is an international embarrassment for New Zealand.
Chris Hipkins doesn't know what's happening in Cabinet because he got voted out of government for being useless.
Some worry recognising Palestine could be seen as rewarding Hamas for the October 7 attack on Israel 2 years ago.
That's the question. Who are you recognising as it currently exists? You'd be making friends with terrorists.
The opposition grilled the
What
Prime
a
Minister.
prick.
Do we start to bring up definition of terrorism and then link it back to what Israel's doing at the moment? Like, is this the time to now go, what is terrorism? I did this once, I remember, because it was the Iraqi war, when I was doing Talkback, and we were talking about terrorism, and I said, it was after 9/11, and I said on my show, I said, what country is causing more terror on the face? What country is causing the most terror on the face of the planet today? Does that therefore mean the ones causing the most terror are the biggest terrorists, which of course was America with their bombing schedule at that time, but it kind of feels the same. So when are we going to list out what things make up a terrorist group and then line that up against what Israel's doing to see if they, and I say this to kind of make the point rather than say, I don't need to be convinced, and then see if they line up to be tick, tick, tick on the terrorist boxes. You know what I'm saying? Actually, Jack, do you want to say anything to that? We'll cut you out between these little chats.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree more. You know, let's not talk about terrorism unless we're talking about the full picture. But, you know, what I would also say is that, you know, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it more soon, but like we were actually risk been much more than a slow follower, because you know, we should have recognized Palestine as a state years ago. You know, over 75% of UN member states recognized Palestine as a state. A huge chunk of that was in the 80s and early 90s. And it's really only, you know, European and Anglosphere states that are dragging their heels. And it's, you know, pretty despicable that we're a part of that cohort.
Yeah, very true.
We'll keep going with the story.
Is the Prime Minister finally willing to say that Israel's slaughter and starvation...
Chewy, I found a little highlight for you. Do you want to see, and it's not going to come right now, but this image speaks to it a little bit. Would you like me to show you today David Seymour being an absolute little bitch? Because I've got something that I can show you a bit later on. Would you like to see that a bit later on?
Yeah, I would. It could be almost any clip from any time. You haven't narrowed it down at all, but
the reason it relates to this has got to do with the a terrorist scarf in the background there. But I'll show you the picture first, and we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
Of Palestinians in Gaza is a genocide.
What I know is that there's a humanitarian catastrophe happening in the Middle East. What I know is that we want to see peace and stability and security reign in the Middle East. And for that to happen, Hamas must release hostages immediately.
What will be left to protect in a month's time if the Prime Minister waits until September to act, with the Israel government approving further escalation in Gaza?
I would just say to the member, there are strongly held views on all sides of this debate across the whole of New Zealand.
Good guys on both sides. Oh, there's
both sides to it.
There's good people on both sides, you know.
There was an urgent parliamentary debate.
We are being left behind. New Zealand is being left behind on the international stage.
This is not straightforward or a clear-cut issue.
It is.
Some of our partners are in favour of
it is, actually. This is the thing. Like, there was a interview last week. Mehdi Hassan was in a debate, and the guy who was debating said something like, well, it's not black and white. And Mehdi Hassan just went, well, actually, sorry, genocide is pretty black and white. It is a black and white issue. So sorry, Uncle Winnie. It's not difficult. It's not a complex issue. It is that superpower bombing into oblivion that area who can't fight back. That's as really as simple as that.
Others are not. We are not going to listen to scaremongers who couldn't even raise...
I just don't mean to interrupt the member, but I've had enough of that.
A fed-up Labour MP getting the boot from the House. Chloe Swarbrick soon followed. She urged the government to adopt a Green Bill to sanction Israel.
If we find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history.
That is completely unacceptable to make that statement.
Why?
Withdraw it and apologise.
No.
Then leave the House for the rest of the week.
Happily.
Walking out in protest, then copping a serve.
And it's excruciating to watch Hamas propaganda being bandied around this House by those who should know better.
Sorry, I just wanted to give you the space to share your thoughts clearly there, Chewy, with nothing in the background.
Shit. Okay, so keffiyeh, which is what he's referring to is the Palestinian scarf, keffiyeh, as a terrorist scarf, is just outright Islamophobia. Just clear, just it could not be more blatant. And I shouldn't be surprised, but to have an elected member of our government stand up and say something as dumbassed, as poorly thought through as that, I am not surprised that it's someone from ACT.
No, but there's more to come. There's more to come.
Our politicians with staunchly different views. Benedict Collins, One News.
All right, there's the first part of the story. That's the One News story. That's Helen Clark there. This is the elders, and I'll show you this clip now. Oh, you know what? I think with my reboot of the computer, I might have lost it. Let's talk amongst ourselves about what we've just heard, and I'll go try and find the clip I was going to play. Chewy.
So one thing I want to go straight out of the gates is that Chloe didn't accuse anybody of being spineless. She just said she needed 6 of 63 or however many MPs in the government with a spine to vote for a bill. So if people are getting their backs put out by that, I think that says more about them than anybody else. I applaud her for saying it. And I applaud her for just going, yep, cool, I'll take it. Because it's true. It's this sort of action that needs more. The wringing of hands and talking about talking and saying it's all fucking complicated. I want to ask Winston, with his advancing years, how many genocides has he been alive for and seen play out over the history that he can't recognise one happening in real time? Maybe he needs someone younger with a TikTok account to show him what's going on.
Before we throw it to you, Jack, I found that clip. So this is, honestly, this is like the little kid at school telling on the cool kid at the back of the class. This is a little bitch moment like you've never seen.
Mr. Speaker, I draw your attention to the member who has just resumed her seat, which is adorned with a Palestinian scarf. And I invite you to consider what this House might look like if everybody who had an interest in a global conflict started adorning their seats with symbols of one side or the other of a conflict, I think that would bring the House into disrepute, and no member should be allowed to do such a thing, particularly when you yourself have forbidden members from wearing tiny pins on their lapels.
Simon Court's currently removing his.
There's a really important part to hear here, because what Chloe calls out really quickly is Simon Court, who's the guy that you just saw stand up. You listen carefully because you don't see her say it. But after he says the thing about adorning on your lapel, she goes, Simon Court's just removing his. So he was obviously wearing one, and Seymour dropped him in it as well.
Tiny pins on their lapels.
Simon Court's currently removing his.
Excuse me. No, I think you make a very good point, actually. I think I've been willing to accept that if people were wearing something that did not particularly... Oh, here we go. Good. Okay, well, stay warm.
Obviously, we didn't see the footage, but she put it over his shoulders. So there you go. There's David Seymour being a little bitch. Jack, welcome to the show of sweary words at politicians. You're welcome to jump in and share your thoughts.
That's good. All power to Chloe is really my thought at this moment. You know, and this is not the time to be worrying about bullshit parliamentary decorum and standing orders, to be perfectly honest. You know, so many of those standing orders are put in place to try and stifle accountability of members of parliament. And I mean, as you said, Chewy, like it's she didn't even say they were spineless, but even if she had, you know, why should she not be able to? And I think it's now more than ever, we need that kind of unapologetic honesty from our representatives. And, you know, we're really seeing that on this issue from the Greens and from Te Pāti Māori. And, you know, I think we should be appreciative of that. And, you know, there's one thing I did want to say as well. You know, we've seen some relatively strong words from Chris Hipkins over the last few days, you know, saying that we risk being a slow follower and calling on the government to recognise Palestine. But I think Labour has a lot to answer for on this issue as well. You know, just in the last government, him and Jacinda declined to recognise Palestinian statehood. In 2021, there was a motion that Golriz Ghahraman and the Greens put forward when there was another upflaring in escalations between Palestine and Israel. And at that time, the only party that supported it was Te Pāti Māori. So, you know, it's good that they've changed their position, don't get me wrong. And, you know, it's good that all of these different countries across kind of Western Europe are now changing their tune in response to this genocide. But it shouldn't have taken a genocide to recognise Palestinian statehood. They all profess to support a two-state solution. And if you support a two-state solution, then the precondition for even negotiating that should be recognising Palestinian statehood. And so I think if they, you know, if the world had moved faster and stronger on this, then Israel may not have had the political and social license to carry out what they've carried out. So I really think there are a lot on all sides who need to be accountable on this issue.
I want to have a look at the other stories. Well, this is all part of the overall situation, because this has not made a lot of noise in New Zealand. I mean, I didn't watch the whole news tonight, so unless they featured it later on, I thought TVNZ with the former Prime Minister going to Gazan's border would have made more noise than it actually made. Now, the video here is not particularly good, or show the audio is not particularly good, but this is Helen Clark at the border going into Gaza. Let's just have a look and a bit of a listen.
We gave some money to buy another house in another area, or in this area, whatever. Once this buffering zone is prohibited for anyone to walk inside it or to even breathe inside it. Thank you very much, and I will hand. Do you have any questions so far?
So when someone comes, when it's possible,
yeah,
for health reasons, are they driven from the other side?
Yes.
Okay, this is one of our logistic facilities.
So there's a gentleman there just talking to me about logistic facilities there. And I think, correct me if either of you guys know, I think she's on the Egyptian side, because as we speak, she's currently in Cairo. So I'm assuming that's the side she's on. After going to the Gazan border and seeing aid get turned back, Helen Clark has withering words for New Zealand. I'll move my mic because I'm going to do some reading for you, Whānau. because we don't have any more video for this. This is Helen Clark at the border. Former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark has made a heartbreaking visit to the Gazan border, saying she had witnessed first-hand aid trucks being turned around by Israel. Okay, first-hand account. Eyewitness, former Prime Minister of this country. Clark visited the Rafah border crossing, the sole crossing point between Egypt and Gaza, alongside former President of Ireland, Mary Robinson. The pair made a visit on behalf of the Elders, an independent group of leaders formed by Nelson Mandela in 2007. Clark said she saw trucks with food and medical supplies turned away by Israeli authorities and visited victims of the war in Al Arish Hospital in Egypt. A statement from the elders said Clark and Robinson witnessed massive quantities of food and medicines like ibuprofen ready for delivery to Gazans, but blocked by Israeli authorities. It was heartbreaking to think that a short distance from where we stood at Rafah, people are being killed at food distribution sites and children are dying of starvation, Clark said. This war must end. New Zealand is yet to recognise Palestine as a state, but Prime Minister Christopher Luxon announced on Friday that Cabinet had met to discuss the issue with Foreign Minister Winston Peters, saying a decision would be reached by the end of September. Luxon probably said that there was, quote, no role for Hamas in any future Palestinian state. Speaking to RNZ Morning Report on Tuesday, Clark said that the international community, including New Zealand, could be doing more. New Zealand seems to stand for nothing. This is a catastrophic situation. And here we are in New Zealand, somehow arguing some fine point about whether we should recognise we need to be adding our voice to the need for this catastrophe to stop, Clark told RNZ. When you see an unfolding genocide, you have a responsibility to act, she said, describing the US position that recognising Palestine as a state rewards Hamas as, quote, pathetically empty words. Continuing with a quote, this is not the New Zealand I've known, Clark said, claiming New Zealand was, quote, cuddling right back up again to Washington, D.C. We now really seem to stand for nothing except, somehow wanting to save our own skin in a tariff war, she said. Foreign Minister Winston Peters said on Monday, ministers would be taking into account the views held around the country. It is only right that this complicated issue be approached calmly, cautiously, and judiciously. His statement said, over the next month, we look forward to we're going to do some general, we're going to have a bit of a chin wag. We look forward to talking about genocide, canvassing this broad range of views before taking a proposal to Cabinet. Again, that's Helen Clark, first-hand account, saw Israel turning back aid trucks, so we can tick that box now, right? People who are saying they don't do that, it's not happening. We've seen it from both sides. We've seen last time, Chewy, you were with us, 2 weeks ago, we were showing video of Israeli activists going into areas where the trucks are so that the soldiers would lock those areas down and not allow the trucks to go through. And now we're seeing from the Egyptian side, obviously, they're leaving Egypt and they're getting to the border, and Israeli officials are on the other side, and they're saying no, they're stopping them as well. Jack, your thoughts, sir?
Good on Helen for using her position of influence and actually going, to the border of Gaza, to Rafah, to highlight these atrocities. That's the kind of leadership we need in this moment. And there's some really strong comments there from her. And I couldn't agree more that the government, not just on this issue, but across the board at the moment, has been really tying itself to the US in so many ways, and I think that is probably a big part of the reluctance from cabinet ministers to take a stronger stand. And it's disgraceful. We should not be letting our moral position fall by the wayside because of trade negotiations. That's just disgraceful if that is the case. And I think she makes a good point to highlight that it probably is.
Of course there is that. other side of this, Chewy, and we could have mentioned it before I started reading that article, how David Seymour seems to be showing more concern for a piece of clothing that Chloe has obviously worn into the chamber and then taken it off and put it over, like a guy would a jacket. He has more concern around that than actually what's happening in Gaza. Because he's made more noise about that than what's going on in Gaza. Yeah, sorry, dude, go.
It's worse than that, Pat. He was just finding a way to link it back to the fact that they passed a ruling saying they couldn't wear ACT badges on their lapel.
Yeah.
That was his focus there, was to bring back that issue rather than anything else. Like his comments about, and Luxon made these comments as well, of like, well, the hostages have got to be returned. The hostages have been offered back.
The day after.
And Israel declined the deal, spun it out for a couple more months of bombing hospitals and running people over with bulldozers. And then made the same offer with some slight tweaks, and then didn't want to do that either. The hostages have been offered back several times, I think half dozen times at this point. Israel has probably killed more Israeli citizens than Hamas did at this point. And that is a doctrine that they have. That is something that they will do. If they think an IDF member is about to be captured, they would rather kill that IDF person than let them be taken hostage. They have no qualms about this. This is not about the hostages. It hasn't been about the hostages for ages. It is just a talking point in the Western world to justify umming and ahhing our way through it. If we're going to say we support a two-state solution, but Hamas can't be part of it, then the flip side of that, if we're talking about both sides, as Luxon seems to be pretty clear about it, then the two-state solution also doesn't include the IDF. Because you cannot have a two-state solution here when one state has been lying, has been moving the goalposts and moving the border whenever they want to, because it's backed by some of the most technologically advanced military hardware on the planet, and the other side can sometimes get a satchel charge into a tank that's not paying attention, can sometimes cobble together a missile and fire it from a park. That is not a two-state solution. I think we need to recognize Palestine now. I also need to say that we need to follow that up with a ship full of aid and setting up a tent in the middle of Gaza City as our fucking embassy and dare Israel to do something. And if it's not us, it should be someone else. But I'm sick of watching this play out in my pocket every day. I am sick of thinking back to other times that the West has failed to act or acted too slow. Rwanda, Srebrenica, all of these other times. We are doing it again.
Jack.
Well, I just saw someone in the chat say UN peacekeepers, and I think it might have been the same debate that you mentioned, Pat. I watched with Mehdi Hassan. He was making the same point. He was like, long gone are the days when, West used to send in UN peacekeepers to prevent, human rights atrocities and genocide. That doesn't seem to be, in the discussion at all. Yet, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we send in neutral troops to actually to prevent ongoing genocide and to ensure that those supplies and resources can get through? Because at this point, otherwise, we are just complicit in, all of us are complicit in this famine and this genocide. And, complicity is an appropriate word, but it doesn't really capture the full extent of the situation. The West has funded this genocide, armed the oppressors, prevented legal avenues in the international criminal justice system, and Israel is a rogue state at this point. Over the last 2 years, they've bombed 5 sovereign nations, and we're allowing them to rip up the post-World War II international order and it's time we actually stood up for peace and human rights.
Chewy, you just said something real interesting. Made me think. I've been searching and trying to find an answer. I understand that once you've served in the IDF, you are no longer conscripted, but you kind of go into that reserve status.
Yeah.
And so this is what I was thinking, actually. First time I've thought about it, and you caused this brain to fart this thing out. If former IDF soldiers, which is a good portion of society because of conscription, are still seen on some level as the ability to serve, then they become collateral damage to blowing up a hospital and justifiable in the eyes of the Israeli Defence Force and government because they've signed on to defend the country. So they can justify it on their side by going, former IDF soldiers, they know the deal. And then they can justify it front-facing the public by saying brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, hostages, and kind of play both sides. So they can both find a reason that it's okay to level a building they might be in, and also play the empathetic card to the public about how it's all Hamas's fault that they were in that building. You know what I mean? It just feels like they can do it both ways. It's what they might be trying to do.
Yeah, there's no way that there's proportionality or any parallels. Like this is one of the things that infuriates me, right? The entire population of Gaza is being held to the standard of 20 years ago they voted in Hamas. Now that was a Hamas that was secretly backed by the Israeli state.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're essentially under siege by this other country, and that's how people are naturally going to react, right? But Hamas was also, yeah, sure, they're the terrorist organization. They had a standing military force of some note, but it was also who was picking up your garbage and making sure that your building had power and water, right? And then they had one election, and then that was it. But that's enough to just blanket doom anybody in the Gaza Strip. It's also, Hamas is not the government of the entire Palestinian state. It's different in the West Bank. But the people in the West Bank seem to be copping it as well. Not to the same methodical, industrialized murder that people in Gaza are receiving. But they are still having their land enroached, their people arrested, shot. It is an apartheid state in that part of Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
With Netanyahu's announcement that they're going to essentially annex the top third of the Gaza Strip, the one thing that jumped into my mind at that point is they are trying to control a crime scene. Like, Gaza City is where this all kicked off. It's where the first bombardments happened. It had the first incursions. If they're able to remove entire buildings, move rubble around, maybe hide a few thousand bodies here and there, then the proof that organisations like the ICC need, like they were able to go back into Bosnia and find mass graves and then link them to units that were in the area, they're not going to have this opportunity in Gaza. So people are going to get away with this.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Jack, I think we will watch the speech from Chloe. It's 5 minutes. We can watch the whole thing because we can do whatever the hell we want. Time frame. We can either say goodbye now. If you want to stick through and watch the whole speech, you're welcome to do it. What would you like to do?
Oh, happy to stay.
All right. Let's have a look at this. So this is the whole speech. We've already seen the last 28 seconds because apparently all the TV and NZ News wanted you to see was the being kicked out. But there's actually quite a lot of meat in this, and I think Queen Chloe does her thing about the Palestinians in the House today.
Chloe Swarbrick.
Mr. Speaker, I guess at this point in time the question really has to be asked, what words are left? We have libraries and libraries and libraries worth of evidence and research and data that tells us that what is happening in Palestine and has been happening for the last 76 years is ethnic cleansing. It is apartheid. It is genocide. And then there are the live streams that are now being delivered to all of our cell phones 24/7 over the last better part of 2 years. Mr. Speaker, my question for this place is what the hell is the point of our jobs? Because so far all I have heard from contributions is the blame game. New Zealanders, Mr. Speaker, the world, Mr. Speaker, deserves so much better than that. We hear from members of the government and from the Prime Minister in response to our questions today that this is all just a matter of strongly held views, apparently on both sides. But, Mr. Speaker, genocide is a fact, not a feeling. Omar Bartov, a professor of Holocaust and genocide studies at Brown University, says, and I quote, "My inescapable conclusion has become that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. Having grown up in a Zionist home, lived the first half of my life in Israel, served in the IDF as a soldier and officer, and spent most of my career researching and writing on war crimes and the Holocaust, this was a painful conclusion to reach, and one that I resisted as long as I could. But I have been teaching classes on genocide for a quarter of a century. I can recognise one when I see one." Mr. Speaker, we asked the Prime Minister today what the harm could possibly be of recognising in the most basic sense Palestinian statehood. And frankly, Mr. Speaker, he could not answer the question. Instead, in the face of 500,000 people being consciously and intentionally starved to death after being mercilessly carpet-bombed and sniped as they line up for food aid, the Prime Minister decided to appeal once again to Hamas. In the face of innocent people being slaughtered, he appealed to, but what about the terrorist organisation? So, Mr. Speaker, to use that rationale and to use that logic in response, this government is willing so far to seemingly only recognise one of the two states and the two-state solution that is supposedly arguing for. Yet it is not willing to apply the same rationale with regard to terroristic violence, the likes of the genocidal campaign which Israel and the IDF is currently raining down on the Palestinian people. How is that not the basis for the same questions to be asked about the statehood of Israel? Mr. Speaker, then there's just the bald-faced facts. We are a laggard, we are an outlier, and it is not only appalling in the face of this genocide and of the merciless slaughter of these innocent people after having been made refugees in their own land, but we are one of the very few countries in the world who so far refuse to acknowledge the absolute bare minimum. 146 UN member states currently recognise Palestinian statehood. That is 3/4 of the United Nations membership. And so far over the last few weeks, we have seen that the United Kingdom, Canada, France and Australia have all moved to commit their intent. But so far, all our government can seem to do is commit to a process. Mr. Speaker, it utterly beggars belief. Human rights should not be conditional. We don't get human rights because somebody else decides that we are worthy, but we get them because we are human. The best way to lose your own human rights is to care about them only when it impacts and affects you. But, Mr. Speaker, we have so much further to go than merely recognising the statehood of Palestine as we should have done 76 years ago. We can and we must uphold the Genocide Convention, which means doing everything that we can to prevent a genocide before it occurs. So, Mr. Speaker, I will reiterate my call for the government to pick up our unlawful occupation of Palestine sanctions bill and to sanction Israel for its war crimes. If we find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history.
That is completely unacceptable to make that statement. Withdraw it and apologise.
No.
Then leave the House for the rest of the week.
Happily.
Do you reckon Jerry's just angry that fiery speech woke him up?
This thing stays on him, and just listen carefully because in the background you hear someone, we don't know who it is, call out genocide enablers. So listen to that and then it'll cut out.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Genocide
New Zealanders
apologist.
are
Maybe it was one of the two.
passionate.
So there you go. That's if your blood's not boiling now, you're dead. Sorry, it was nice knowing you, but you're in the ground already. Jack, do you want to offer some last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that was a brilliant speech from Chloe. One of her best, and that's saying something. And it was really good to see that that righteous anger in the House today. And I think I'll just end on where she was cut off, which is that it's actually disgraceful that we don't have a sanctions regime in place. And you see, we saw a sanctions regime put in place pretty quickly after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, rightly, and the same should be applied here. We very meekly followed the UK in terms of sanctioning two of the worst and most extreme members of Netanyahu's government, which is really deflecting from the fact that they are just but two of a government that is hell-bent on destroying the foundations of human life in Gaza. And if we are serious in terms of having any kind of moral standing in the world, then we need to sanction Israel economically and diplomatically. And we need to actually, in my view, go even further. And I know Te Pāti Māori have this view as well, in terms of actually starting to change the nature of our relationship with the US, who are, of course, the primary enablers of Israel, and actually look at our diplomatic relations with them, and whether we should even still have a US ambassador in New Zealand, I think is an important question. So all power to Chloe, and let's continue to pressure our government to impose sanctions on Israel.
Chewy, want to wrap up this part with anything?
I think the most galling thing for me, right, is we rightly take so much pride in our actions against apartheid in the 80s. And of course, because we're a ridiculous little country, it all relates back to rugby. Maybe we would give more of a shit if Israel had a functional rugby team that we could then bar from coming to this country. Is that the yardstick? There needs to be a sporting link. Look, I've said this before. New Zealand has an obligation to Palestine. We have an obligation to Palestine because of the things that New Zealand soldiers did in Palestine during World War One. We don't like examining that because it's you want to create the national myth of the Anzac soldier. We did good and bad overseas. That's what lest we forget stands for. We don't forget. We don't remember selective bits and forget all the bad. We have to remember all of it for one very important reason. It's so you don't repeat your past. And I think because of that, we have an obligation to Palestine. I think if you look at any war memorial throughout this country, you will find Palestine carved into them. So we need to be more active. We need to be more present, and we need to be more brave. We blazed a trail when it came to South Africa. And here we are being shown up by fucking Australia, who would have had to weigh up the fact that they have so many irons in the fire with America at the moment, and they still decided to do the right thing. We are currently lagging behind the UK, whose statement was, well, if you don't stop by September, Israel will have to recognise Palestine, which is about as weak as you can get up until you ask Winston about what's going on. It's weak. It's shameful. It galls me that this is the position that this country has taken. Being a small country means we can get away with some big actions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are a small but loud Western nation that punches above our weight. Australia is leaving us for dead here. I would like us to load up a whole shitload of humanitarian aid into a couple of grey ships with a black Kiwi painted on the funnel and we sail it into the Med and see what happens. Like, that's as far as I'm willing to go at this point. Like, Jack, you brought up our response to Ukraine. Do you remember that we granted a whole bunch of emergency visas for people to get out of Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Glaringly different when it came to Palestine, where we wouldn't grant family visas, emergency family visas for people to get out of Palestine. That's on Erica Stanford, I think, at that point. So, yeah, we are flat-footed. We're not doing anything. And I think if we want to look at the actions of this country and what we stood for in this time of history, we need to do more. And it's very clear that our coalition of cowardly cunts is doing nothing.
And let me just offer one last thing to wrap up with as well, guys, is that we talked a bit about the capital gains tax last night and how it's not a controversial policy anymore. And the way Chloe speaks from a progressive part of politics. And I think it's time for people to understand that these topics are the more favorable topics as well. Like granting Palestine, granting Gaza statehood is no longer controversial. We get a certain sector of society to tell us that, oh yeah, Luxon, oh you should, I hope they run on a capital gains tax, not knowing that 2/3 of New Zealand think it's a good idea. And I just wanted to show you one thing, right? And just evidence of this happening around the world, because you don't hear this enough in the media, is to the popularity in society of progressive politics and progressives, like what Chloe was just doing there. Some research that came out in the US by Gallup. Long story short, it was a bunch of newsworthy people. The highest ranking, only ranking politician in America to have a positive ranking was Bernie Sanders. The next highest American politician, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So these people are not seen by the public as the demons that the media portray them to be. What Chloe's saying, or how Chloe's acting, and the policies that the Greens are putting through are not seen, and this is where Labour needs to get a bit brave. Those guys further left to you are not putting out their policies that are fearful to the nation. They're actually policies that the majority of people like. The reason this made news tonight is, of course, because Elon Musk was the most hated man in America, according to this, but that's another conversation altogether. So I would just encourage, I mean, I don't need to encourage Chloe, obviously, she's a firebrand. But for us to remember that we are on the right side of history here. And not just the right side of history from a minority place, we are on the right side of history. And it's what society wants as a majority. Don't listen to what Winston Peters says. It's a difficult decision. No, it's not. Don't listen to what Luxon says. We're to weigh these things up. No, we don't. Like Mehdi Hassan said 2 weeks ago, you know, I'm sorry, but genocide is a black and white issue. And that's where I'll leave that tonight. Final word, Jack. Do you want anything else to wrap up and say goodbye with?
I think you guys have summed it up well. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, let's just all keep raising our voices and doing anything we can and within our power to bring about the pressure needed to end this genocide.
Cut by Jack. Thanks for joining us tonight, mate. You spent an hour with us, bro. Hope that's okay. Hope the fire and stuff's all right with that. But it was good fun.
It was a good chat. Yeah.
A good chat. All right, dude. Talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Cheers.
All the best. Let's get to some of these super chats and stuff pretty much straight away because they've been there for a while. Thanks, team. Hadron Collider says, protect public healthcare. Submissions close 1 p.m. Monday on Healthy Futures. Pie Order Amendment Bill. Very good. Peter says, the public are rightly contemptuous of Israel and Gaza. Did I pronounce it the right way? So I think this is a win for Chloe in highlighting our feckless embarrassment of government. This is what I'm saying, is that these policies aren't controversial. You know, like, Israel's committing war crimes is not controversial. We've been saying it since day one, and I think Jack said it's taken maybe the population governments too long to get there, but they're there now. So this is not we're not pushing shit uphill anymore, guys. This is the downward slope, and that's even more embarrassing that we have a government who are basically have their car in reverse whilst everyone else is just cruising down that slope in neutral because it's not a difficult journey from here. Yeah, they're making it more difficult than it needs to be. Kooky is late. Kooky is also says the kafia is used by all Arabs, not just Palestinians. I think there is one though, Chewy, that colouring is specifically to that region.
Yeah,
the keffiyeh is
pattern.
everywhere, but it's a bit like a tartan.
Got one there.
A bit like a tartan with the Scottish. They can mean different things with different areas. Is that right? So what's that one? Where's that one allotted to?
Oh, look, I don't think this is allotted to anything, but, bought it in an army surplus store because it was sunny and I didn't want people to see my face. But look, the white ones, the patterning and the colour means different things for different areas and that sort of thing. Yeah. And look, what I can say is just one of the things with watching such a big atrocity happening basically live in our pockets 24/7 is it's really hard to know what to do. And certainly with the blackout that's coming out of Gaza, so much news came out yesterday about Microsoft assisting Israel with any phone call that's coming out of Gaza. The killing of, I think it's 6 or 7 Al Jazeera journalists today in a targeted bombing. They just laser-guided missile their fucking tent.
But so people know the full story. I believe they accused one of the journalists of being Hamas. So they accused one. So to get that one, they killed 6 others. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the vibe they're in.
I think when we're talking about something like this and it's big and it's horrible and it's so graphic, and what the fuck can we do? In every major centre in New Zealand, there is a Palestinian protest or rally every week. Like I went to the one last week when I was in Christchurch, and it was great. It's uplifting to feel part of something, and as part of that group, you will find Palestinians. You will find people from Palestine, and they will be selling things like those scarves and traditional handicrafts, and like some of the stuff that comes out of Palestine is amazing. And it's well worth spending your money with those people. That is a positive change, and that is something that is helpful. It is small. It is not going to stop what is happening, but it is moving the needle somewhere to where it should be in this country. So get involved. Do something. Create those community links. That's what we've always talked about here at BHN is it's easy to be overwhelmed with what's going on in the globe. So shrink it down and do something practical. You to someone else. That might be you going to a protest. That might be talking to someone that is parroting the same bullshit that Luxon and Seymour have been saying. That, it's about the hostages, blah, 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 blah. But you can do something.
Yeah.
And you should do something, because there will be a time years down the track from here where you will have to account for where you stood. And yes, it's good to sort of go, yeah, I was against it, but did you do something?
Yeah. No, fair, bro. Wahiki says, canvassing a broad range of views. Yeah, sure, like they give a fuck. Cress says, it is appropriate to increase the price of your merch. Is it appropriate to increase the price of your merch? Taxpayers pay for the roads used in the manufacture and delivery and the schools your children attend. That makes us investors, does it not?
Confusing. We'll bring it up with Chris Luxon, because we are just participating in the free market. Our suppliers' costs have gone up, and so our costs go up as well.
The thing that's interesting about this is, if what I'm reading is Chris saying that makes people buying merch investors in this, I would say, yep.
That's accurate.
Yep, 100%. When you buy some merch, and we haven't talked about that tonight because we had a guest, if you buy some merch, that helps to make this show, that helps to make Craig Rennie's show, Locked Out, that helps to make Gary Payinda's show, The Front Line. So yeah, I'm happy with investors. I think that the patrons are probably the immediate investors, and then people who want to participate in other ways, like with merch, are doing it as well. So yeah, sure, fine. Kai Matara says, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the foreshore to the seabed, Māori sovereignty lies ahead. Helen only supports one of these, which is a really interesting point. Goes on to say, Helen said she doesn't, I guess it's think, something. She doesn't something foreshore. She enables the same. The land belongs to the colonizers rhetoric Israel uses, but less violent and against Māori. Interesting point, man. It's be an interesting point to raise with her one day. And finally, Matthew, you started this. Find me a member with a spine is unacceptable. And what about when John Key screamed at Labour to get some guts because they didn't want to send New Zealand troops to war? Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Nah, yeah, bro. I guess it might be a time now, seeing it's just been brought up, to remind people that we've got some older, not old merch, not old like it's running out of style, but I've got some merch. No, it's not secondhand.
Pre-war.
I've got merch that I purchased before the prices went up. So basically, we're running a bit of a special at the moment. They're not technically on special, but in a couple of weeks they'll be going up by $5 more for a t-shirt and $10 more for a hoodie. So if you want to get any of the merch that's been around for a few months, the buffer gear, the Nicky No Boats, the Chewy Foo. I've got a question for the chat actually. The Pat and Chewy, not the new ones, the tax work less or the fuck around. You can get those at what is the old price, and the new product that's out, which is the 4 heads, the 4 faces. Everyone's excited by those. How cool is that? And also the pink BHN, which will be probably gone by the end of this week, probably. Then you are unfortunately having to pay the new price for that because the price from the supplier has gone up. Now, Chewy, I know that I have said this before, but I am now currently in conversations with people about caps and beanies. Now, we've been here before, but I'm going down the embroidered line rather than the pressed line because no one was happy with those. I wasn't happy, so we didn't even put them out. So I need to know from you, chat, and if you're watching this on demand, put it in the comments. What would you pay for a cap? What would you pay for a beanie? What do you think a fair price for a BHN branded cap is and a BHN branded beanie? I just want a bit of an idea because I've looked at what they cost to make, manufacture, and I think it's not cheap. And it's like if the price that we are prepared to pay for them is not more than what we can get good ones made for. So I'm just doing a little bit of what do you call it? Consumer research right now. Cap, beanie, and they'll be like this. They'll be embroidered, not just pressed. Want to see some things in them. Okay, Chewy. Let's go on with this next story. Oh, yep. Sorry. Yep. No.
Sorry. Just before we move on, real quick, I'll try and keep this as quick as possible. We keep on mentioning this with Gaza, as it didn't start on October 7th. And I remember when I was in the UK, there's a very good example of that. I went to the the Imperial War Museum. And right in the forecourt of that, I think it's the first exhibit you see as you come into the building, is this Land Rover.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you can see, it's all marked up with Reuters, press, foreign press, TV press, on literally every side and angle of this bright white Jeep.
So what you're saying is you cannot identify that as anything other than. It's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. There's another angle that I'll show you here as well. This is from the top.
Yep. Okay.
Again, foreign press, TV, Reuters, press. You'll notice here, there's a big hole.
Hole in the roof.
The Israelis put an anti-tank missile through the roof of that Reuters truck.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 2006.
Right.
This vehicle was operating in the Gaza Strip near the Kani crossing on the 26th of August 2006. It was hit by a rocket fired by an Israeli helicopter. So,
Hang on,
them
gosh,
deciding...
It says both occupants were injured, not even killed. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. Not for lack of trying.
Yeah, true.
But look, this is what for people that don't pay attention to this sort of stuff, that don't understand the history, what's happened before, why things happen, is always because of something that happened before. And past behavior is a good indicator of what will happen in the future, right?
Yeah.
Israel has never had a problem with shooting unarmed people, women, children, or members of the press. And they never had a problem with that when they thought they would get in trouble for it. But at every turn, the international community has let it slide, sometimes with some light grovelling, or maybe you should chill out, psycho. But there's never been some hard consequences for it. So, like with a naughty child, there's no consequences. You continue to ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're testing the limits of, yeah, we nuked a tent full of 7 journalists outside a hospital, but trust us, one of them was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the international community going to let that happen?
Yes. Well,
Past experience suggests yes.
And if you think about it in that kind of way, you know, the bully, the bully that keeps bullying and never gets pulled up by someone, or eventually they metaphorically need a bop on the nose to cool them down, and we don't seem to be there quite yet. But maybe we've got some places. I'm thinking of Canada and the UK in the gym doing a bit of training, ready to bop someone on the nose. But at the moment, they're not actually doing it. They're just warming up for it, so to speak.
Israel needs to be demilitarized at this point. There should be some assurances given to the Israelis in exchange for that. And I think the Arab League have extended the fact that if they chill the fuck out, that they will guarantee their borders. And the UN, this is exactly what the UN is for, right? You need to demilitarize and stop being such utter cunts to every one of your neighbors and Iran. And in exchange for that, the UN will guarantee your safety with UN peacekeepers that will also look after the other side as well.
Yeah.
But as it stands at the moment, nothing's going to change. We have 2 of the biggest nations on the planet, the most powerful nations on the planet, severely invested in making sure that this keeps going because it is in their benefit and they hold the veto. Nothing happens at the UN without them agreeing to it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you for the feedback in the chat about pricings. Interesting. I'll take that to account. The problem is, Chewy, I'm a bit of a cap snob. So these ones that I wear, 59.50s, are like 100. I don't pay this for them because I get them from America, but when they sell in New Zealand, they're about 120 bucks. So I have no idea.
That's a tariff situation for you.
I don't know. All right, so let's get into this story. The TVNZ, I think is it Horizon or Varian or whatever it is, polling is going on this week. Really interesting polling out today because remember yesterday you heard the response to the polls was both Seymour and Luxon saying, oh, you know, the public are they're struggling, they're finding it tough, and, you know, they're blaming us for it. And we're like, yeah, because you own it. It's because of you. So and so what we've also been saying for a long time is the government stops all that infrastructure projects. They stop building Whiti Whata Ora. They stop all these projects, and then all our tradies move offshore. And we've been going like, and I acknowledge that if you're on the other side of politics, you don't necessarily agree with this style of economics, but there is a style of economics that says when times are tough, government spend. And then when times are good, government pulls back. And we've been saying when times are tough, now government should be spending. This is when you do your big projects. This is when you employ all those tradespeople. Well, it's not just us that have been thinking that. It's now showing up in the polls that the people are going, this government should be making more jobs, giving more work to their people. And they're not saying like giving more money, but actually providing an economy where opportunities are there because of the actions they're taking. And this is actually a real bad news story for this national-led government.
MPs today weathering the cold and digesting the latest poll.
Look, we're going through a tough winter, but we're hanging in there.
The feeling out there on the street is that people are very dissatisfied with this government.
Look, I think people recognise that this whole country is in the middle of trying to turn around a pretty big mess.
It's not great, quite frankly. Yeah, obviously we've got to do better.
That includes Christopher Luxon, who dropped...
I saw a TikTok today from someone who was a bit pissy. They were obviously up the mountain, wherever they were going. Whole queue waited 30 minutes for this dick, and it was Luxon walking past with Albanese to get on the luge, and they held up the queue for 30 minutes while these two people pushed in front of everybody
Man of the
else.
people.
Man of the people.
Dropped 3 points as preferred Prime Minister, now on 20%, the worst result for a sitting PM in over 30 years.
The Prime Minister hasn't been this low since the mid-1990s in the preferred Prime Minister stakes.
Who was that?
Jim Bolger.
Oh, he won, didn't he? He won.
And then he got rolled.
He won though, didn't he? Won the election.
National keeping
If that's your strongest argument, Sunshine, I'll tell you something. It's not a good one. It's not a good one.
the faith.
As you know, with the Warriors, you never stop backing them. So I'm fully.
You almost pulled that off. You almost got through a whole sentence without shitting on your shoes. Well done.
This is the thing, right? The thing with this statement. Now, I've been a Warriors fan for before. I don't really follow them that much at the minute. But this is the thing. The reason you have to keep the faith for the Warriors is because they always let you down. This is the thing. This is the year for the Warriors. This is the Warriors' year. That's what you hear. Maybe next year will be the Warriors' year, and everyone gets really excited about the Warriors, and then you have to keep the faith because the Warriors always let their supporters down. Are you aware of the analogy you're using? Because what you're saying is no matter how bad our results are, please keep supporting us. That would be an equal comparison to the Warriors thing. No matter how bad we get, even our fans are so good that no matter how bad we are, they keep the faith. So Sun needs to learn a bit about analogies.
National keeping the faith.
As you know, with the Warriors, you never stop backing them. So I'm fully supportive of Chris Luxon.
Yeah, I'm not focused on polls or talking about myself. What I'm focused on is New Zealanders and making sure we've got the right long-term economic plan in place.
Part of that economic plan includes going for growth. So we asked voters if the government was doing enough to help create more jobs. 4% felt it was doing too much. 29% thought the government was doing about right. But
You're right. You're right. Do you need a Heimlich? Are you okay?
4% of people we asked were actively doing bath salts at the time. Jesus.
But still, I'll take this down just so it's a bit clearer. I know we can see it. But that's not good. So
60% is usually the tipping point on a poll when we look at, right? Where you can pretty much go 60% is like fucking 90% in real world terms. People were unhappy.
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying, right? They're actually saying 60% think the government should be doing more to stimulate job growth. The government should be providing an economy for jobs to be there. The government should be providing opportunities for all those tradies not to be moving to Australia. People are seeing it. The public is seeing it. And this is a really bad result for this government of business, the government of the economy. You know, the last guys that were so terrible and did everything wrong. Well, at the moment, these guys are faring much worse in popular opinion. Chewy, sorry, mate.
And look, that's 100% correct, and that's what we should be taking away with us. But I just want to see One News pivot here and really dive into this 4%. I want to hear from this 4%. I want to see where their head's at. I want them to show their workings. That is insane.
Okay, well, maybe they do that. Let's keep going.
Majority, 60%, said it was not doing enough.
What do you make of that?
So we are doing everything we can. If you think about...
I call bullshit.
Yeah, it's utter bullshit. And it's also not the question. People think that you're doing bad. What are your thoughts? Oh, we're not doing bad. Cool. But people think you are. So whatever you think you're doing, is it working?
Yeah, you're not doing everything you can because you could, for example, raise the budgets on the government entities to help people get into their work and doing things. Yeah, you're not doing everything. I'm just calling bullshit.
$6 billion worth of infrastructure projects starting before Christmas. That is a lot of jobs. It's a lot.
And where are all the people gone that we're going to work on those with the infrastructure projects?
That money, that infrastructure money that he's so proud of, is going to go to an offshore mega company that is going to contract out, and because the workers that they need aren't here, they're going to be brought in from the Philippines.
Yep.
And they're here on a contract, and they'll stay in a shipping container, and then they'll go back home once the job's done. That is not growth, Chris. And it's certainly not long-term growth. It is a sugar hit at best. And it is funneling New Zealand taxpayer money overseas at worst.
A lot of tradies, it's a lot of people getting involved in that work.
The construction
gone.
sector has seen
They're gone.
18,000 job cuts since the government came into power.
Under the previous government, we saw a tsunami of spending post-COVID, which really the industry responded reasonably well to and grew and employed people, trained people. But now we've got the opposite end with the government coming in, and quite rightly.
It's so funny, because it's not like he was about to slam Jacinda. It's a flood of money, and it was kind of good because people were able to be paid and stuff. But now
I'm in that industry and we liked it.
It's the opposite.
Be looking closely at expenditure across in health and housing, education.
By putting all of the existing transport projects on hold while they reviewed their priorities, they actually ground that part of the construction sector to a halt as well.
Yep.
The former head of Naylor Love Construction says the government now needs to open the purse strings.
Otherwise, we're going to see some continuing downturn in the construction and more people losing their jobs, more misery.
Misery that could determine whether a government should keep its job.
Okay, now before we go
on that note, I
found
don't know if you covered it while I was away, but the government has once again paused work on the Dunedin Hospital because there's no better way to spend money than by having everything on pause.
Here's that TikTok I was talking about. They closed down the luge for 30 minutes just so he could go down solo. And you watch it. And then, I have to turn that music off or else we'll get booted. I'll just go back.
You'll get hit with the naughty stick.
Yeah, there we go. Look, and Mr. Luxon all by himself. Gets to one step.
Wouldn't you be
himself.
ropeable if you're there with kids and stuff like that?
I mean,
by himself.
Yeah, because I was wrong. There's no Albanese there. That's just him and his missus, right?
I was angry about the Pavlova thing.
Yeah.
Like, I assume you heard that while I was away. Him flying to a top of a glacier in a helicopter with Albanese so they could cut up a pavlova in the middle of a cost of living crisis.
And you know what? I'm just finding this ironic that he went up because he wanted to go alone, and the big sign there says, "Can you ride alone?" I guess Luxon can when they stop it and there's no one else on. Yeah, we of course played the every single one of your dollars. We want to look after every single one of your dollars. He was happy to take the luxury trip up the mountain.
I've just had another thought about the Pavlova thing, Pat. We all know that Luxon is a master negotiator.
Master debater.
So I'm imagining that he absolutely caved in when it was discussed who invented the Pavlova, and we've now lost the Pavlova to Australia. Probably signed that away. That wasn't put on a referendum, Pat. I don't remember that being campaigned on.
You're probably right, though, because it's like Mr. Seymour not really caring about the treaty principles.
Yeah.
Bill wasn't a bottom line for them, and he got through.
The Aussie PM going, hey, look, we don't need it. It's fine. It's a joking thing. No, you can have the Pavlova. You take it. You take it back to Australia with it. We didn't invent it.
And Farlap. You can have Farlap as well.
Such a
Throw
good.
it
Yeah.
in.
He given. What do we have? Do we have the skeleton or the outside of Farlap?
No, I think
we've got the skeleton.
I thought the skeleton was at the MCG or something, isn't it?
We definitely we definitely split the component parts of a dead horse between the two countries.
Very good.
I'm pretty sure the skeleton's in Te Papa.
Okay, very good.
Or at least was.
Peter says we've tried nothing without ideas, Luxon.
Oh, right. That's their slogan.
2026. Next year, dude, it's 12 months away. This time in 12 months from right now, it's going to be holy mackerel. We're going to keep trucking.
It's a good time. It's a good time now in New Zealand to make sure that you stock up on the big fat felt tip markers that you can add extra slogans onto election hoardings. They might get thin on the ground closer to the election.
Ryan Bridge had a day off from Big Herald News, and for some reason Lex Luthor took over. No, that's not his name.
Oh,
No.
I'm just saying Ryan Bridges has fantastic hair, and so they don't want anybody to compete with him, so he brought in someone with no hair at all.
The shiniest
I'm sure this person has a name from here on in, the Herald, and their new interviewer, the albino, is here to talk to Chris Hipkins.
Talked to Chris Hipkins this morning. A couple of questions I just want to focus on. The first one is, he asked basically, is like we're coming into an election, is this your team? Have you got your A team together now, i.e. whoever your shadow front bench would be? Will they be your front bench? And it was good to hear Chippy. It's a quick clip. It's only 55 seconds. Basically say, yep, we've got the team to do this.
I suppose. I mean, this is a time where if you're getting a lift in the polls, people start to look at you more seriously as a government. Are you looking at your own bench and saying, these are the people that are going to be right with me in cabinet, or are you having some second thoughts?
No, absolutely. We've got an amazing...
What did he expect? Chewy to go, nah, fuck him. I'm going to find better
I'm
ones.
going to shit can a lot.
Yeah. What do you want to say?
Labor team, and we've been focused on getting our team into fighting fit shape, both for the general election and also to govern the country after the election, should New Zealanders place their faith in us to govern the country. I've been really clear with our team that I want people arriving in office the day after the election with a clear plan of what they want to do, having done their homework very thoroughly, gone out and spoken to all of the stakeholders in different areas to make sure that the promises we make the electorate are promises that we know that we can deliver on. I think New Zealanders have given us very clear feedback, both at the last election and actually since then, when it comes to the actions of this government. They don't want any more big promises that politicians make and then don't deliver on.
Yeah, I mean, good words. You know, like probably Labour's getting a bunch of stick at the moment for not having policy out yet. It's like, dudes, policy will be the start of next year, end of this year, start of next year.
I'm all good for that because at the moment, Nationals and ACT and New Zealand First are acting like a washing machine with half a brick in it. They are wrecking themselves.
Yeah.
They want to attack Labour on shit that they haven't announced yet. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
So I think from a political play, what Labour's doing here is really, really good.
100%. The one thing that was maybe not so good over the last bit, and look, I'll be fair, I was pretty firm on Willow Jean Prime last night, but it was an L. There's no questions it wasn't an L. That we went pretty hard at Luxon for not wanting to be bipartisan, and then finding out that at least one of the members of Christopher Luxon's caucus had the opportunity to do something bipartisan. We don't know what that would have looked like, and fell short. And unfortunately, if nothing else, it gives National some fodder to go, well, we asked. They didn't want to come and play games. So they're talking a bit about Willow Jean Prime here. And, Chippy is both gracious and acknowledging that it was an error, which is probably about the right tone.
So what was your feedback to Willow Jean Prime? Because we had that story recently about how she wasn't sort of paying attention to her emails, wasn't responding, wasn't taking up the opportunity to have meetings and understand NCEA better. So does that have any repercussions for her?
Well, to be fair to Willow Jean Prime, the invitation from Erica Stanford came right at the time she got the education job. I know, having held that portfolio, that there would have been a lot of people messaging her at that time saying, hey, come and meet with us. And what, the
minister isn't the first person you want to listen to and go, actually, I will sit down and have a listen and see what you've got to say? Surely they're going to have the most impact on the policy, and rather than, a list of others, you want to hear what they've got to say, surely?
Well, one of the key bits of feedback that Willow Jean got right at the beginning was that the Minister of Education, when it came to the review of the NCEA, wasn't going out there and speaking to them and listening to them. And so Willow Jean made the decision that she was going to do that before meeting with the Minister. Now, she made a mistake in not replying to Erica Stanford and saying, I'm going to come and meet with you, but I'm going to meet with the representatives of the sector so that I can get my head around these issues better first. And she should have done that. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, I think what's important is that we do try and get some bipartisan agreement on issues around our national qualification system. As Minister of Education, I worked really hard to try and do that. I made sure that Nikki Kay, who was then the National Party's education spokesperson, wasn't just meeting with me, but was meeting with the review group, was meeting with all of the stakeholders in the sector, was meeting with the Ministry of Education, so that we could get something that was not going to chop and change when there's a change of government. And I think we owe it to our kids to try and achieve that.
We do. I guess it starts with sort of having the sit-down meeting with the person at the top, though. Look.
So I felt like the right tone. He kind of went, it was missed. Willow Jean had only just got into the position and she had lots going on. It was a mistake. And we move on. It feels like the right time.
That's a solid answer. And I'd put in another wee question there. So this is a person new to Labour's education portfolio. Did Erica know that?
Don't know.
Yeah, so maybe that's a question. Did Erica know that this was probably not a great time to extend an invitation to collaborate? If it was meant genuinely, you've got two results there. Someone that's coming in having not had any time to talk to people involved in that portfolio and get a sense from, I hate this term, but stakeholders. Or the other thing is you get no answer and it blows up into a little mini political scandal where we hold Labour to a much higher standard than any other party on the right has held to.
Yeah.
You know, I think the answer to this question of whether this is bipartisan or not is like, where have we had any example that this government is serious about bipartisan negotiation? Because we haven't seen it anywhere else. So our new education spokesperson didn't know whether to treat this with the respect that other spokespeople have got from National.
Johnny makes a very good point. Says National didn't have their policies out before the debates last time, right? What the fuck?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Very good. Very fair point.
So yes, Labour should not announce their policies because National want them to. That's just not good tactics. I know we want to know what it is. But I think more
they
importantly,
can give to us secret.
That
Give them to us
they
secret
know what it is. As long as they've got their shit squared away, they can say it whenever they want.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. Gareth also asks a question, just wondering if you're planning any specific local election content in the upcoming weeks. I mean, I think we probably will. The answer is actually no. Like, we're not going to do a Auckland mayoralty debate, or, you know, if it pertains to the overall news, yes. Like, as in if it's national news, yes. But we're not going to talk to the contestants or the participants of the Māori ward in, you know, Upper Hutt or whatever the ward is in that area. I did, in fact, Chewy said this not long ago. I did that last election. I spoke to all of the Dunedin mayors.
A lot of work.
I don't have the capacity to do that this time around.
Because that was just when you had one podcast to look after and no merch.
I tell you what, though, I'm pretty sure it's in the ballot, is doing some stuff, and I'm pretty sure Paul Barlow is all over it. So go and subscribe to those two channels. It's Paul, the other one, and it's in the ballot, and I'm pretty sure those guys are over them.
Excellent work.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
And certainly locally for our Dunedin family, I'm waiting for Mark Baxter to put out his traditional candidates guide for Otago Regional Council and Dunedin City Council. We'll try to have a talk to him about that a little bit closer to the time, I guess.
Sure. All right. I saw this story today and I was concerned about it, and I've put it in the show notes. I told you tonight would be a bit kind of higgledy-piggledy because jumbled going on. There was actually, I won't say who it is, Chewy, in case something happens for tomorrow night. There was actually someone that might have popped up live in the show tonight that no one knew about, but I've heard nothing back. So we'll see if we can chase that for tomorrow. So I saw this pop up on RNZ today. Staff shortages, nurses afraid to come to work at Canterbury's Mental Health Services review finds. And then TVNZ featured it. It's only a 3-minute story. It's a big story. It's about what's happening. We're hearing about, you know, nursing shortages, and there's no hiring freeze. We let them hire 3 people when they need 60. So I thought, to wrap up the show tonight, maybe we'll just have a look at this inquiry, finding significant problems in Canterbury's mental health services. And like I said, you know, what catches your eye, nurses afraid to come to work because they're not feeling safe. So let's have a look what happened on what was reported on One News tonight.
Critical staff shortages were among multiple failings detailed in a damning report into Canterbury Mental Health Services 3 years after the murder of Laisa Waka. The mother of 4 was killed by a mental health patient who was out on leave from Hillmorton Hospital. Lisa Davies reports.
Laisa Waka was stabbed to death in this Christchurch street.
Her life was taken far too soon in a violent, malicious manner for no reason.
Her family given the scathing report listing failings in mental health services that allowed her killer to leave the confines of Hillmorton Hospital.
We gave our heartfelt apologies for these tragic events and expressed our sorrow for what had happened to them.
The impact of meeting them apparent today.
What an incredible, courageous family they are and the journey they are going through.
It is good to see genuine attrition, genuine remorse for the involvement that the group that you're running. And I'm not going to go, but fuck him. It does make me think though again, and I know we can't have a result of legal action like they have in America unless you have the whole American society here, which we don't want. But these are those instances where I go, ACC, that kind of stuff, it's not enough. It's not enough. There should be able to be some recourse. That daughter who we just saw who lost her mum looked young, lost someone who would help her through university, work with kids. There could, and I'm not ever saying obviously that a financial or remuneration amount is worth a life, but what we can do is figure out a way to make that person's life easier as they go on without the other person whose death is in part at the fault of this government organisation. I'm saying all those things in part, some part, because not 100%. You know what I mean, Chewy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe there needs to be a middle ground between ACC and a litigious society, but it seems to be that thing is we gave up our right to sue for this ACC thing, but ACC doesn't quite provide well enough to leave people short all the time, and yet we can't do the other thing. Maybe there needs to be some kind of tweaking of that system, either more into the ACC system or maybe circumstances where maybe it would just be when government or business offends against you, there is an open portal for financial remuneration there or financial recompense or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We acknowledge that we have some work to do.
The family of 83-year-old Faye Phelps, murdered in her garden last year by another of the hospital's mental health patients, also acknowledged.
Health New Zealand accepts that we have made some failures.
The report found there was heightened demand due to the Canterbury earthquakes, mosque shootings and a rapid increase in the prison population, and made 9 key findings.
Critical staff shortages, poor morale, disruption and delays in resourcing decisions. These contributed to pressures.
The result, employees scared to go to work. The events forcing improvements. There are now 11% more staff in the forensic psychiatry area. The report makes 18 recommendations to make the service safe for patients, staff and the community, including improving governance, performance and decision-making, reviewing the care model and improving resourcing. From next week, all patients under the Mental Health Act at Hillmorton's Forensic Unit will have to have their leave requests reviewed by the Director of Mental Health. The continued implementation of other changes to ensure immediate safety will be monitored closely for a year.
I'm not prepared to just sit there and say one and done. That's why I'm doing the monitoring program to make sure that they are embedded.
I made it very clear to Health New Zealand they need to assure public safety while those recommendations are being implemented.
To ensure nothing like this can happen again.
Keep on asking myself why. Why have I lost the love of my life?
The love of his life lost to a broken mental health system. Lisa Davies, One News.
When you hear it explained like that, lost to a mental health system, I mean, the reporter, Lisa Davies, is putting all of the blame on the government department. So, I know there's no point debating that because it's not the way the system's run, but it feels like there needs to be a middle ground to me.
I mean, Minister Douchey, I think I'm pronouncing that right, saying that I've passed on my expectations that this isn't going to happen again, is just is there something less than this is literally the least I can do?
Well, the other thing is he's talking about back office people. It's the back office people that would keep an eye on some of these things and make sure things are going on. Like, for example, monitoring the cameras. And they're taking all the money out of the back office people.
So he's shat out an email, sent it to probably an unmonitored email address, or it prints out of a printer in an unintended office, and nothing happens. Nothing changes. Like, this is where I get really shitty with a short-term thinking government, like National tends to be. Like, Christchurch has been through it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you hear it laid out, earthquake, mosque shooting, overcrowded prisons. Like, anybody could have seen that what Christchurch has been going through would have had downstream effects. And yet, we are back into, we don't give enough money to these things. We don't have enough staff. You know, I saw last week that you read out that email from a nurse explaining what her day-to-day is. Right? And that cut straight through me. Obviously, my sister's a nurse.
Right.
She's told me very similar situations. In fact, I was wondering if that email was from one of her colleagues.
That TikTok's currently at nearly 8,000 views, because I put that up on TikTok. So yeah,
it's such an important piece.
Yeah.
Find it, share it around. It's so important. We know what the problem is. More importantly, the government knows what the problem is. They're really good at identifying what the problem is. And the problem is not enough money, not enough people. And their solution of cutting even more money and getting rid of more people is not going to solve the problem. Why do we have to relearn this every 8 years? In possibly the least efficient way possible.
Yeah.
Like, do you get to a point as a politician where you can see the testimony of someone there going, why is my mum dead? Why is the love of my life dead? And then the report in the inquiry says, actually, fuck, it's all our fault. And you're the minister in charge of that. Does that not affect you? Like, I know you didn't deliberately go and get this guy out and point her at it, but this is part of the thing of being a leader, right? And especially as a member of government, your only job is to protect the people. That should be number one. Protect the people that are having to be in that mental health situation, protect the people that work in it, and protect the general public. Do that. I don't care about the budget. I don't care about all of these less concrete things about how much tax you're paying. You know, we've got to deliver tax cuts. Fuck off. People are dead. People are dead, and the people that are in there trying to help people are creaking at the seams. And again, more hand-wringing from the government. Oh, well, we just can't fucking blah, blah, blah. 12 months. 12 months to get them out.
Welcome back, Chewy. I'm glad how's your blood pressure? First night back's all, it's okay. It's pretty good.
I'll check. There's no blood coming out of the tattoo, okay, so it's probably good.
Says the big Q has an eagle eye. Hey Pat, love the flying squirrels cap. Yes, this is where I explain to people how I buy my caps, and I do it off an international minor league baseball site called MILB, and there it is right there. And you can use a New Zealand Post service in Portland, and they can send your caps to Portland, and then New Zealand Post sends them back to New Zealand. And what I do is I go in there when it's cheap. Look, that's what I said. These sell for 120 in New Zealand, but I bought this one for 15. I bought this one as well, and I bought this one as well, because if you get three of them,
is this the sporting equivalent into like underground bands that no one's heard of before?
Well, it's kind of the way, because like who else is going to have the Richmond Flying Squirrels caps in New Zealand? So I quite like it. So people haven't really noticed that most of my caps are pretty unique, and it's because I buy minor league baseball teams. Like I won't buy a baseball cap for a basketball team, because that's like chalk and cheese. Why would a basketball team have a baseball cap? That doesn't make sense to me.
I've never thought of that, but now I'm enraged at the concept.
But you see, so they're much cheaper. So I get 3 caps, $15, $15, $15, $45 US. Way cheaper. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you, says the big one. Seeing someone actually identified the Richmond Flying Squirrels, that's pretty impressive.
Speaking of underground bands that no one's ever heard before, I saw a gig poster up here in Dunedin. Like I love seeing local gigs for just the names that people come up with for their bands. Like one of my favourites here in Dunedin is a band, I've never seen them. I have no idea what their genre of music is, but Robots in Love. I love that poster. But I saw one today. Again, don't know the genre, gonna take a guess at it. But the band name is just called Slur. I'm gonna say that's probably a punk band. There's another one called Cuck.
Yeah.
They're both good words for a punk band.
And apparently a really interesting live stage show. Anyway, we'll just leave it right there. You go and see Cuck, you don't know what you're going to see. All right, guys, that's us for tonight. Chewy, lovely to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, man. And I'm glad you had a good time away.
Remember, look, this is just to pre-warn the fans that are glad that I'm back. I'm going to be gone again in a month.
Yeah. Gosh. I have to actually. I don't know. Has HR actually authorised that leave yet?
Yes, you sent me an email approving it.
They haven't told me.
Yeah, it came from your email address, Pat.
Oh, okay.
You are everything to me.
To you.
Can't you see?
What a lovely time! What a lovely time to piss off for the night. All right, team. All right, lovely jubblies. Have yourself a fantastic evening. Be safe for the next 24 hours. We'll see you back here tomorrow night for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Chewy, anything to wrap for you?
No, good show. Glad to be back.
All right. Catch you tomorrow night, team. Be safe.
Up.
Be well. Stay warm. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.